Hi, I'm Liz Seeley, founder of Starry-Eyed Strategy, and I help you turn creativity into your greatest competitive advantage. After decades partnering with the world's best, biggest, and most beloved brands, I want to take you behind the scenes to see how the most creative leaders turn ideas into impact. Each episode features leaders from top CEOs and CMOs to founders and authors, revealing how they stay inspired to create brands that launch and last, and how you can do it too. You'll walk away with practical lessons and tools you can use, whether you're repositioning your brand, rallying your team, or planning your next big launch. So let's get started and stay starry-eyed. My guest today is Mindy Armstrong, the VP of Menu Innovation at Tropical Smoothie Cafe, bringing more than 20 years of culinary experience. She's worked with big-name brands and nimble innovation agencies to develop menu ideas that connect with guests and deliver strong business results. Before Tropic Time, she led menu innovation at Perkins and Huddle House, rolling out a full menu reboot with a brand refresh. She's also held senior roles at Buffalo Wild Wings and Marlin Connections, building teams, creating processes, and launching big ideas. Mindy serves on FSR's 2025 Next Gen Council and the Legacy Board for Women in Restaurant Leadership, one of my faves. She's passionate about mentoring emerging talent, supporting women in the field, and cheering on up-and-coming innovators. She's also a mom of two sweet smoothie lovers. Mindy, welcome to Stay Starry-Eyed.
Thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here. There's nothing I love more than connecting with a friend on a podcast. Such a treat.
Such a treat. Well, thanks for being here with me. What do you hope the brand leader listening will think differently or try after our convo today?
This is such a good question. And I listened to all of your episodes and I've heard some great things from the guests that you've had. And for me, I think it's that you don't always have to have the expertise of the team you're leading. For me, I've had the great pleasure and joy to lead culinary teams most of my career, but I'm a marketer by trade. So I certainly am not useful to them in the kitchen, but I love, love, love the work I do in the teams I get to lead.
That's awesome advice. Yeah, just enough to be dangerous.
Enough to say, what if we do this? And the team says, please stop doing that, Mindy.
But if you don't ask the question.
I
know. Well, it's so fun to be with you, friend. I'm excited to dig into a lot of the innovation elements that you're so good at. And what struck me as I pondered my questions for you is how diverse the different brands have been that you've been leading teams at. Building, rebuilding innovation at 3 different brands, as I listed: casual dining, family dining, fast casual now. I would love to know the first thing you look at when you start at a new brand. What are the things that you consider?
Yeah, it's good. Most people would say, I look at the menu first and identify where our gaps are and what we need to do to change and what the feedback has been from our guests. But for me, the first stop is that team dynamic. I think for me, and as you know from your years of leading innovation teams, is if the team dynamic is off and we don't quite know how to work together, we're not going to do big, amazing things from an innovation standpoint. So that's my first stop. And what I've joked about in the past, and it's not really a joke if I'm honest, is I start with my cross-functional teams and make friends, spend some time together, really just understand how we think and how we can work better together, of course, but also just like, gosh, what is the power of this team going to be able to unleash? And the faster we figure out how to work with one another and drive innovation forward, we're all going to benefit.
That's awesome. So you're thinking more about how the team works together, ways of working. How do you evaluate that as you look across, especially across the different functions, not just the people reporting to you?
Oh, come on. We can feel it, right? We sit in a room together and we observe a team and just how we talk to each other, how we communicate, what our forums are for communicating, how people work together. I think you know pretty quickly how teams are going to deliver new innovation and where we have some opportunities for improvement. I used to be on the agency side a long time ago when I was with Marlin, my sweet Marlin team that I loved so much, and they're still doing amazing work. And I worked with a really crazy creative team, right? So I worked with the cool art directors and copywriters that were really doing that amazing work. And I learned really, really early that one of my super strengths was figuring out how to work with each creative, brilliant mind differently. And so for one really talented art director, I needed to work with him one way and communicate one way. And with my really smart copywriter who was creating amazing copy for our clients, I had to work with him a little bit differently. And that has served me well over my career is working with really amazing creative teams that might just need to work a little differently than their potential partner across the aisle.
That makes sense. So you
The
customize.
aisle, hard, you know what I mean, hallway, across the hallway.
So you customize the way you're communicating with them. And then how do you bring together once you understand the dynamic? Is it moving people around? Is it like deciding a ways of working or a protocol of the way that we're going to treat each other? What are sort of the standards you set?
I think sure. Yeah, I think that we all have lived within a process, and we certainly have one. And I think putting people in places of strength and making sure that we've got the right culinary team working on the right project that's going to get everybody excited. And once people get excited, I think the power starts to unveil itself. But first, we start with the process, and we start with who's got what and who's responsible for which piece of the process and how much time do we have and all of the basics, just so that everybody feels empowered to then go do the work that they're great at.
And you mentioned, your time on the agency side. Walk us through how you got to where you are, especially since you've been VP of menu, but as you said, you're not a trained chef. You just know enough to lead the team and to come up with those awesome ideas. How did it all begin?
Oh my goodness, it's so fun. I had such an awesome kind of journey to where I am now, where on the agency side, I worked as an account executive and had amazing clients across food manufacturers. So that's how I fell into food, entered into an agency world, again, as a marketing kind of, major, as you might say. And I started on the agency side, had food service manufacturers as my clients, and really started to understand food service, of course. But we also had, as part of Marlin, we had a group called Food IQ that was a couple of chefs who were doing amazing culinary thinking for some of our clients. And in working with one of my clients on the creative side, what I realized is there's a little bit of an opportunity here to sort of merge strategic thinking with consumer understanding with culinary expertise. And so within our agency, I was able to work with our leadership team and say, hey, I think we could maybe turn Food IQ into something that could really drive not only an additional revenue stream for the agency, but also really get consumer centric within a food service manufacturer conversation. And so myself and a couple of others really went all in on our culinary team and took that culinary resource and turned it into a culinary innovation agency. And we started to service our clients by way of me and a couple of chefs that ran around the country working with our manufacturer clients and really making sure that we were clear on what the opportunity was, made sure that we were driving innovation through a consumer lens, and then bringing culinary ideas to our manufacturer clients so that they could then serve their customers, restaurants, with big ideas that would drive their business. So that's how I got started. And along the way, in this amazing industry that we're in, met a lot of amazing folks. And that's how, we all sort of go to our next stop, which is when I got the call to go to Buffalo Wild Wings, who's owned by Inspire Brands, as you know, and joined that team and entered into the restaurant side of the business.
Awesome. I'm surprised our paths didn't cross decades
I don't know
ago.
how they did it. It's wild. Yeah.
And then tell us about your switch. This is so fascinating to me because I love the going back and forth between the agency side and the brand side, which we've both done. Tell us about going then to Buffalo Wild Wings. What was the same? What was different?
Yeah. Yeah. I think the cool thing about, starting on the agency side versus starting on the restaurant side is you learn really quickly on the agency side, as you know from your experience, how to be really scrappy, how to get things done, how to figure things out, how to work through problems through a creative lens, as I was able to do, not only, working through our communication strategy for some of our clients, but also trying to constantly solve this consumer problem that we were having. And I think too that I had the privilege of working with so many food service manufacturers on the agency side. And a lot of those carried through because they were our suppliers when I got to the restaurant side. So that was a cool opportunity to be like, oh gosh, I worked with you over here, and now I get to work with you over here, and it just was a pleasure, like bringing those relationships forward. In fact, I was at Coca-Cola yesterday, and I ran into an old client that I worked with when I was on the agency side, and so it's just this like fun place where we get to constantly run into people we love and that we've gotten to work with over the years. And so when I walked into Buffalo Wild Wings, the very cool thing that I was ready to do is one, build relationships, as I talked about. Like my first stop is, who do I need to go meet? Who do I want to be friends with so that we can go drive this amazing innovation and really just, bring some new thinking into our restaurant and into our sports bars. But also, I think the thing that was really interesting about that particular time in their journey was they had just been brought into the Inspire fold. So they were also new into Inspire, just as I was new into Inspire. So that gave us this really cool way to start our working relationship in where everything felt new. The team was new. I was new. We were all new together. So we got to really sort of forge these amazing relationships and create processes and ways of working together as we joined this broader organization. And I think, yeah, it was awesome. And that was a great way to also, create relationships that I still have, these amazing relationships that are now friends for life because we went and did this crazy, wonderful, amazing, delicious work together.
I think that's one of the key takeaways that our listeners will love, but something that I admire about you is, yeah, making sure that you're making friends with everybody. It is like musical chairs, especially when you're in a, adjacent
Yeah.
industries. You
Yeah.
just see all your faves over and over again. You must well
Yes. I
all
think too, it's like it's so important to the work that we do. And I know this is like basic ways of working and how to like create, strong bonds. And we all know this stuff since we were in kindergarten. And I think though it has served me so well that being someone that people want to work with, especially in a highly cross-functional organization as our teams are, is really one of my strengths. And I think it is something I've continued to nurture in myself as I have personally tried to develop over the years my ways of working. And I think it continues to serve me well.
agree. And it's nice that at Buffalo Wild Wings, once you made that switch, the whole team was new. So it wasn't like you were the
Yeah.
trying to fit in, you're building something. What I wonder, what did you and the team do first at Buffalo Wild Wings, especially to fill the pipeline with so many ideas that you launched during your time there?
Yeah, I think we had an amazing rockstar culinary team led by Jamie Carowin, and first, we built the team. So a lot of the realities of joining a new team, you have to look around and say, do we have the right team to do this work that we need to do? We knew what our ambition was, certainly in terms of the menu architecture we needed to build. We certainly knew where we had some innovation opportunities based on guest feedback and where the sales mix was going, and we analyzed all of that and really identified our innovation roadmap, built the
Mhm.
team, and made it really clear what we were setting out to do over the 3 years that we had built that roadmap to represent and got to work. And the cool thing about casual dining, as some of your listeners will feel, is you've got this amazing broad playground. So we had, of course, the bar, but we also had a full service menu, and we had a structure of a team within a large footprint. So we had a lot of room to play. We also had a leadership team who was willing to let us go do that. So I think for us, we set out and created a rock star team and set out to do this work that we needed to go do.
When you think about Buffalo Wild Wings, you mentioned the menu architecture and the opportunities to create the innovation roadmap. Talk to us about where that comes from a brand standpoint. Because I find a lot of different brands, depending on they don't want to pause to ponder what the brand's
Mhm.
about. They don't want to
Yeah.
pause or what they own or what's signature. Let's just do what's trending. Let's
Let's do
just do.
what's trending. No big deal. Yeah. Yeah. I think it goes back to that consumer, right? So I think for me, it's like one of the things I believe most in the work that I do is we've got to lead with the consumer voice, like, period. End exclamation mark. I think for me, it's like if we're not serving our guests, we're not doing our jobs. And so I always start there. What's our consumer need from us? What are we not doing today? What are the occasions perhaps that we're not able to drive in a new guest because they don't think of us for that? How do we make sure that every time they come in, they feel the hospitality that we're trying to drive? I always start there. And once you have an understanding of what you're doing well and where your guest wants more from you, that gives you the inputs that you need to then go build that roadmap. I think you can work really, really hard on the wrong things and still end up in a place where you might not have solved that, but if you start there and you build your roadmap to answer what your guest needs from you, you're going to wake up in a year or two. It takes time, and you're going to find that you're serving the needs that you set out to serve.
Exactly. This is a bit of a tactical question, but can you cover some of those inputs that are most helpful? Say you are maybe you do have a segmentation, but I find that some of the biggest brands with segmentation studies, they just think that everybody's their customer. So that can
Mm.
be
Yeah.
equally debilitating as if you're a tiny brand with no customer intel at all. What are some of the inputs that are key to creating that innovation roadmap?
Yes, I'll tell you an embarrassing story. And this is a current story. Well, I just hit my 1 year anniversary at Tropical Smoothie Cafe. So this is about 51 weeks ago. I had joined a culinary showing. I was brand new into this amazing brand that I am serving today. And the team was presenting some innovation ideas. And again, I had just started. I'm trying to observe and watch everything. And one of our cross functional team leads was in the room and shared with everyone what this particular person, he knows who he is, and he hopefully is smiling when he hears this. He shared with the team what his personal opinion was of the idea and the culinary representation of that idea. And without even thinking about the fact that I had just started and I had not created any strong relationships yet, I immediately said, "You are not our guest, and your personal opinion does not dictate whether we do this or not." And then I was immediately very embarrassed because I had just said this to someone I had met for maybe 5 minutes. But that is the essence of how I feel. We have to make sure that we are representing our guest at all times, and often we are not our guest. And I think that when you think about a segmentation study and when you think about all of this amazing consumer research that we're doing, we have to come back to that over and over and over again. And we have to wear that. I mean, make a button or take a photo and just keep that with you at all times. Because if we are not serving the guest that our brand serves, we will not be successful. And I think that is at the heart of building a strong innovation pipeline. It's certainly at the heart of building a strong roadmap that will deliver the business transactions and goals that we're setting out to build.
Totally. So even before you have an innovation action plan or an innovation roadmap, you have to have an understanding of the guest.
Yes.
You mentioned things like reviews to understand where the gaps or the opportunities might be, maybe where the brand is not delivering. What are the other elements that you love just getting to know that target audience?
Yeah, yes, I think there's like basic building blocks of like, what are the things that our menu is doing today? Who is the guest that we're serving? Keeping that guest at the heart of everything that we do. Looking at our sales mix, of course, looking at like what products are resonating, what are not. Tactically, I believe very much in making sure that we're pulling that consumer along that journey. So on the front end, making sure that we're asking consumers whether this idea is appealing, whether it's going to drive them into our cafes. And then also, once we make the idea, like putting it in front of them and in some sort of taste test. So we're getting that feedback on, would you come have this again? And what's the value? And does it drive, sort of like high satisfaction, and then putting it into our cafes and sending consumers in and being like, hey, did it serve the need that you hoped it would serve? And what do you think of it? And really interacting with our loyalty guests, because they are very important to our business, and making sure that we're delivering to our loyalty guests what they expect of the brand. And
What about when you are a brand who has a certain customer, but you aspire to have another? And Perkins is where their customer
yeah.
is aging out. We need to appeal to the next gen. How do you balance that when you want to keep the current customer coming back, but you also want to extend, usually younger?
Oh, that's so hard. And I know that is something that a lot of people are thinking about, especially as Gen Alpha comes up and Gen Z is really coming into this moment that is, has more disposable income. And what an interesting generation, by the way. Like, so fun. I love that stuff. I think you have to think about what you're trying to solve. I think that it's easy to be like, oh, we need to go get the younger customer, but why? And not because you shouldn't, but you need to understand what the why is. And it could be you're trying to drive a new occasion. Perhaps you're trying to drive an afternoon day part, and that might be a younger consumer because of their, sort of like where they are in their life. And that's what you have to start with. So if I'm trying to drive a younger consumer for a new day part, I might make different decisions than if I was trying to drive a new consumer because I want them to grow with my brand the way that a Perkins consumer has grown with my brand over the life of the brand. So I think that is the first question for me. One of the things that I come back to is like, if how do we drive this new consumer in for this new day part? Is it flavor? Is it convenience? What are the things that must be true in order for that new consumer to choose us? Is it an awareness opportunity? Does this consumer even know about us? If they don't, that's going to take you down a different path. I think once you start to answer those questions and you truly know who you are as a brand, who this design target is that you're trying to drive in, and when you're trying to drive them in, then you can start to get to the how. With Perkins, what we found is that nostalgia was so strong. And because that younger consumer had these amazing fond memories of experiences they had with their family, that could we could pull that through. And for Tropical Smoothie Cafe, we're a beverage led brand. So it's like, how do we make sure that our beverages are compelling to a younger audience, and how do we continue to think about how we attract them into our brand to come get our next thing, and then making sure we're talking to them, making sure that we're thinking about the flavors that are driving that younger consumer into a brand. Like, I think you just got to ask the questions and make sure that you know why you're trying to drive that guest in, and you'll find the answer.
Very well said. But why?
I know, but why? Yeah, it's like, oh, you'll find the answer. It's like easy, right? We all know how hard it is. I don't want to downplay the fact that it's hard, but
Every rebrand that we do is like, but we need the younger guest. We need the like young and hip guest so
yeah,
that the brand
yeah.
lives on.
Yeah, but
And
why? Tell me why. Tell me why. Because I think once you understand why, we've all read the book. Find your why, and
yes,
and then figure out how you're going to go deliver what they need.
true. It depends. Yeah. And I like that you and the team at Tropical Smoothie Cafe have that demographic target because it can go across age groups too.
And then once the promotion is over, or once a core menu item has hit the menu, just like constantly talking to our guests, like, how does it feel? Are you satisfied? Like, all the good tactical questions that we're asking around sort of overall satisfaction and repeat purchase intent. We all know this. These are the things that is basically our scorecard to be sure that the innovation that we are delivering is doing what it needs to do.
Love it. You just answered my next question, Mindy,
Oh,
what is the innovation process from idea to menu item?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like,
I just told you, right? I mean, yeah, we have an innovation process that we are constantly moving through. And as you know, it's an innovation process as much as it's usually represented as a linear process. There's nothing linear about an innovation process. It's wavy and messy, and it pops around, and you might feel like you have a really big idea that came through the front end of that innovation process, and you might find like, oh, actually consumers don't love it like I thought they would, and you got to go back and you got to start over. And I think, if I could represent an innovation process as a shape, I would probably call it more of a messy, wavy circle, because we're constantly learning and iterating and moving things about as we walk our way through.
totally. We at Yum had the restaurant ready process, which was a little bit like this, but yeah, you go wide to come up with ideas, narrow them down, go wide again when you're doing things like protocepting to make them real. So you just, yeah. And by the time you get to the end, what I wish we could always do is not just the quant element, but a tiny touch on the qual to see you're repositioning this properly, because still some of those ideas could be big. We maybe just, need a better name or something. You could still bring those
Completely. Completely, yes. And along the way, we know that more than anything. Like, even in like a screening process, if the name is great, it's probably going to do really great. And like those little tiny pieces about who you are as a brand and how people see you also plays into whether an idea is accepted or not. So there's so many like nuances around the work that we do that you often will get to the end and be like, oh, shoot, I should have done this, or I should have thought about this, or I should have asked this question. And you're like, do it next time. Like, we just got to continue to like push ahead and learn every single time. We do not know everything. We're constantly learning. And I think that, even if you've launched 100 products, you're still going to learn something new on the next one.
And you guys have done such a good job of defining who the target guest is, not only demographically, but psychographically. What do they care about? What are their attitudes, their values, their behaviors? We've been uploading things like that into AI to create this. And then I've actually been trying to replicate the studies that we would do as primary research and see if we get the same response to the ideas. And it's pretty
Interesting. And what are you getting? What's happening?
consistency.
Yeah.
But that's pretty wild. It makes me wonder if that will replace or at least augment. Maybe we can like settle for a smaller sample size, but we'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Yes.
So you've done a beautiful job of breaking down that innovation process. Where do you think the best idea has come from for you? Is it, we talked a lot about the guests, the trend tours, is it that consumer research, culinary inspo? What has worked lately anyway?
Oh, goodness. I mean, this is so cliche, Liz, but ideas come from everywhere. I mean, they really, really, really do. I mean, some of the things the team's working on right now, it could be from things they've tried in the past, things they've tried in a restaurant, things they've seen in a trend tour, things. I mean, it truly is true. I mean, that's probably why it's a cliche, right? Is that ideas truly come from everywhere. I think one of the values of a true like strong innovation process and great dynamics within your cross-functional team is that an idea gets better ideally as you walk along the path, because it's like, I have an idea, now I'm going to overlay my consumer who's important and lives at the heart of everything I do, and then I'm going to overlay some feedback about what we can do well within our cafes, and then I'm going to overlay sort of like our constraints as it relates to what consumers are willing to pay and what we can actually get, and our suppliers, the strength of our supplier network. And once all of that comes together, it becomes an actual product that we can go launch in our cafes with confidence. And then the idea just starts to snowball, right? Like, of, we couldn't do this 2 years ago, and now we just did this thing, and it opens up the aperture to what we could do in the future. And I think that's when ideas really start to explode, when you start to not only build all the things we've talked about a strong dynamic and working relationship within our own four walls, and then a really, really strong supplier network that we depend on and love, and helps us, build big, beautiful ideas by way of their ingredients, and then a rock star culinary team who can bring things together and take all the experiences that they've had over their career and make these ideas even bigger and bolder and more delicious. And then we get the benefit of trying it with our consumers and continuing to make it better. So it's just like this very cool world that we live in. And I think for me, as we challenge ourselves to think about the next great idea, we can take those learnings and then bring them into the process once again.
Totally. I love that. And when you think about bringing all those teams together, what have you seen be most beneficial? Is it those online ideations? Is it the rapid prototyping of making it real early on?
Yeah. Yeah, I think
Brilliant, because you're actually using the ingredients you would launch with.
Yeah, there's nothing I love more than going to one of our supplier kitchens and working together. Like, I think the hands-on work and the pushing and the pulling and the working through something of like, this is okay, or this is great, or this doesn't work, I think creates big ideas. I think ideations, I think that is a place where I'm curious to see how they evolve over time as we continue to be stretched, and budgets and AI, and how we continue to learn how to get ideas on paper and get them in front of our guests. I think that will be interesting to watch. I think big ideas come from that, but I do think as you work across teams in person and think through ideas together, I think that's where you see some strength.
Agree. Are best practice lately is to do those online ideations so that we can really open it up to so
Yeah,
many people
exactly.
across the world. They can upload anywhere. But then taking the top ideas that we get from that, maybe we screen them, maybe we just jump in, but the prototyping to actually make them real makes such a difference.
So giving yourself the space and time within the prototyping to work through the nuance of a product. And I have an example recently where we thought the idea was this on paper. We had a great idea for a new smoothie, and on paper it looked beautiful. It was very, broadly appealing. Guests loved it. They're like, yes, I would love to see that on your menu. And then by way of prototyping in our kitchen, the idea became even bolder. And once we had that bold idea, we're like, oh my goodness, like this took one idea and amplified the flavor. And how do we now go capture that in writing so that we can go back to our guests and have the same conversation again? And again, it's like that, like twisting and turning within that step of the innovation process, where we have to give ourselves the space to iterate and think about an idea to make it even stronger than it was before.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. I was going to ask, with the Buffalo Wild Wings launching more than 80 new items in under 5 years, how is that process expedited as we think about moving faster? And again, we know that a little more time makes them better and bigger, as you said. Plus getting into the kitchen, you probably had all kinds of other flavor ideas and other ways to stretch the idea. Those are my
Yeah,
favorite, the product platforms that are not just a flash in the pan, one
exactly.
hit wonder, but the ones that make you famous that you can come back to as annual LTOs.
Yeah, wow, what a fun time. It's a bit of a blur because as you can imagine, we were moving and grooving. We had again, it goes back to we had a broad menu. We had a lot of room where we could go play. We needed to go innovate and sort of like kickstart, sort of a new day for that brand. And so launching new beverage ideas and new cocktails and a whole menu refresh, you get to 80 pretty quick.
And then your Perkins stuff, that was so fun to see you bring back the bakery equities. That was one of the first times that they've recouped what made them famous back in the day. Sidebar, I think you know this. My dad's first job was at Perkins just the other day.
It's incredible.
But having brought back the bakery equities in a modern way is key too. How do you think about, like you said, Buffalo Wild Wings cocktails are a huge part. We know they're working in wings. Then you get to Perkins, it's more about pies. And for the first time, they revisited that.
Yeah. Oh, what an amazing experience that was. I think it goes back to the guest. I'm like a broken record, Liz, is it goes back to the guest. And when talking to guests, what I heard over and over and over again was about that bakery experience. And it wasn't the actual product is the part that's most important. What I heard over and over again was a very similar story that sounded like this. My grandparents used to take me to have pie at Perkins. Or my dad loves going to have fill in the blank with a bakery item at Perkins. Or, oh my goodness, I remember being 5 years old and putting my hands on the bakery case and being so excited about what was inside that case. I mean, I heard that I can't tell you how many times. So you take that, and then on top of it, I would hear my server at Perkins watched my kids grow up. And now my kids go to Perkins and they have the same server. I mean, there is so much nostalgia and beautiful, delightful moments within that brand that oh my goodness, what a treasure, right? And so we took that and we said, you've got this beautiful bakery case and we need to go celebrate it. And that was where a lot of that came from. Like, how do you bring that bakery experience and those feelings of just like love and family and moments together and bring that front and center?
And what was the format of that consumer input? Did you do quick qualitative? How did you get those rich insights that, again, a lot of brands skip? They just jump right into what are we making today instead of what sets our brand apart? What are the latent equities that we're not taking advantage of?
Yeah, we did a couple of things. We did do a segmentation study. We also did some qual work. But honestly, in this particular case, I went to the restaurants and I talked to folks. I talked to our servers, I talked to our kitchen staff, I talked to our operators, I talked to our guests. It was probably the best way in that for that particular brand to really get to the heart of what makes that brand special.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We're thinking about a new online course called the Insights Lab.
Yeah.
And the assignments is going to be break out of the office.
Get out of the
And
office.
the guest and
If
the
you are not sitting across from your guest often, you need to go do that.
yeah, go and do that.
Go do
Right,
that. Yeah,
right
just
now.
close
Pause.
close that laptop, get in your car, and go talk to that guest.
That's brilliant.
It's
Well,
also the best way too to stay grounded in the work you do. I mean, go to like for me, I need to be in my cafe. Like I need to go talk to our teams. Like that is the most important work I can do.
yes, well said. And remind me what you launched at Perkins.
What did I launch at Perkins?
Right, donuts.
Donuts. Yes, we launched some donuts. Those were so great. I loved those donuts. Yeah, what else? We did, of course, some pancakes. From time to time, we launched donuts. I also worked really, really closely with our leadership team on a new format that came to the marketplace called Griddle and Go, which was a limited service model of Perkins. Also, launched, gosh, it feels like a minute since I've been there. Launched lots of amazing new things, some new sides, some new salads, some new family style dinners, some comfort food, lots of really delicious items.
It's awesome. Well, you laid all that groundwork. So by the time we did a little innovation work for them, you'd already done all the work. And we did pie pancakes.
I love that. I can't think of something better than pie pancakes at Perkins.
Well, and then thinking about Tropical Smoothie Cafe, how are you training and developing the team that you know and love today to
Mhm.
think like innovators like you do, to get out into the field, we'd call it, and the
Yeah.
real cafes and see the guests and chat with the team? How are you helping them to maybe emulate that, but also what kind of skills are you looking for to make that even stronger?
Yeah, so it's all the things we've talked about, right? I walked in and already had a team that had been leading innovation before I arrived and was able to jump on that team and rally with them to do the amazing work that we're doing right now. So I also, we also know very clearly who our guest target is, which I think if you're listening to this and you don't know who that is, like time out, go figure that out, because that's one of our sort of guiding principles is who we serve. And then was able to build out the team a little bit more. So we doubled our culinary team from one amazing chef to two amazing chefs, and also brought in a registered dietitian to help us make sure that we're leading, sort of through the lens of what our guest wants from us, which is these better for you options. And so we have a rock star team. We're small and mighty. And the first thing that we did is we got in a room together and we thought about what are all the things we know? What are all the things we don't know? And then we went and learned the things we needed to learn from a consumer standpoint. And that was through some qualitative work, and sent some consumers into our cafes and asked them to order our smoothies and our food and our bowls, and then come talk to us about it. Tell us what we need to know. And that led us to landing what our culinary filters are. How are we thinking about culinary? How do we sort of think about every idea and what must always be true and what must be true sometimes related to the certain product category that we're thinking about? And then how do we layer that into a menu innovation calendar, considering the fact that we do have some seasonality because we are a smoothie led brand? So how do we layer that into a calendar that's not only consumer centric but also plays into what we do best, and uphold some of those like amazing moments in which you go have a smoothie? And then how do we also make sure that people know about this amazing, delicious, better for you food that we have, and think about how we pair that with our smoothies, of course. And then, as you know, how do we continue to tell people about our best in class bowls that are just so delicious. Our acai bowls, of course, but also our Greek yogurt bowls and our chia oatmeal that is one of my personal fan favorites on that menu. And then just continue to innovate within that. What are the categories that we want to be known for, and we're very clear about that. And then what are the ways that we can continue to tell guests why they should come choose us. And right now we're leaning into our wraps. We've got a great wrap that's on the menu right now that will be a little spicy, which we wanted to lean into the trend of spice, but do it in a way that celebrates our equity. And of course, pair it with a smoothie, which was our intention, to make sure that we're bringing folks in for craveable food, but paying that off with our brand equity through our smoothies.
And without giving anything away to
Mhm.
other smoothie competitors, can you give us any indication of what those broad culinary guidelines might be, or the
Yeah.
filter you would apply? So yeah, spicy is trending, but how do we do it a Tropical Smoothie Cafe way?
Exactly. Yeah, I'll share a little bit. I think one of the things that was really important to me and to my team is that we thought through our culinary filters through the eyes of our guest, and really listen to them first about why do they choose us over our competitors? Why do they choose to come to an occasion at Tropical Smoothie versus someone else in the category, and broadly someone else in QSR or limited service. And so we listened to guests first, and then we thought through, here's the guest feedback. And then through a culinary lens, how do we translate that into food and beverage? And so, of course, flavor is king, as it's always been. That's not new to you or I. We've been talking about that for most of our careers, and I imagine most people in our category are. So, flavor, of course, comes through, and we have to make sure our flavor is distinct and true to us. So, that's important. We have fresh fruit. We have to continue to bring the freshness and brightness of our brand forward. And then, yes, tropical. Like, gosh, what a pleasure to work on a brand that is in the tropics, and so making sure that it feels right for a tropical led brand. And then, of course, as I mentioned, like our customers come to us for our better for you options. So we also want to make sure that we're layering that filter into everything that we do.
Well, Mindy, let's switch into a little starry-eyed sparks, a little lightning
Okay.
round.
Okay.
What's the best or most inspiring book you've read? That could be of all time or lately.
Okay. So I'm going to give you two. Um, One of the books that I read, and it's been a little bit of time, but Elizabeth Gilbert, who's known for her, Julia Roberts movie. She wrote a book called Magical Thinking, and it's about getting unstuck and being inspired. That was, from an innovation standpoint, that was amazing, an amazing book to read, because I think it's often hard to be like, oh my goodness, can I come up with one more thing? And what should we go do next? And to get out of that cycle of just doing what we've always done, I think you always have to be looking for that kickstart to take you a different direction. So that would be one that I recommend. I also was really inspired by this fiction novel called North Woods, which I just read in the last, I don't know, 6 months or so. It was so good. It was just about how things change over time, and specifically through the lens of a house, which I loved so much. So that was one I would say. I love to read. I'm a big reader though. So I could list a million books that I've loved and have inspired me.
Those are awesome ones. Yeah, one that's more personal, one that's more professional, so you can stay creative.
Yeah.
What about a brand that you admire that's not your own?
Oh goodness. Oh, a brand that I inspire that is not my own. Oh, there's a brand called Hawkers. It's a small regional brand that's growing. I think they're fantastic. I think their flavors are out of this world. I think they do a fantastic job. I think the other one, of course, is our friend Alicia at Mendocino Farms. I, of course, love that brand. I think she's doing a fabulous job there. And then and then I'm also keeping my eye on all these up and coming beverage players. I think what's happening in beverage right now is just fantastic. It's like the heart of what we do, of like, listening to consumers and going and creating delicious, amazing, gorgeous products. So I'm certainly watching all of the brands out there that are doing all of that.
Awesome brands. What are some of those up and coming players? One thing that we didn't have a chance to talk more about is, in it from an innovation standpoint, back in the day, all the culinary trends would trickle down from fine dining and then be ubiquitous mainstream with the chains. Now we're seeing them bubble up. Smoothies from Erewhon, from grocery stores.
I
What are
know.
those tiny brands that you think are doing a beautiful
Yeah,
job?
of course, Erewhon is doing a fabulous job, and we're all watching them. And then there's a brand here in Atlanta. I think there's maybe one location. I'll look it up and send it to you. It's led by a dietitian that has created a smoothie brand. I think where ideas are coming from. Back to your original question, it's like all sorts of people who want to deliver delicious items. Like they're doing it, and it's like so fun to be part of this moment in time. I think coffee is amazing. There's a brand here in Atlanta called Velour Coffee that I go to often because it's just beautiful, and the way that they're playing with flavor and what they're crafting in house, and how they love what they're doing. I went there the other day and they were doing a birthday celebration, and they created new beverages for this one guest and a birthday gift that went with it, and I was like, we are turning hospitality on its head. And then there's a moment where we're creating, like, of course, product plus hospitality plus service. And I just think what's going to happen in restaurant brands, especially as we try to compete for the same guest over the next several years, it's going to be fascinating to watch.
Another reason we need to be thinking about not just the product or the recipe, but what is the experience?
That's
What
right.
are all the touch points? What is the news behind it, the story?
Yes, yes, yes. That is what brings guests back. Yes, your product has to be great. Yes, it must meet a guest need. Yes, it has to deliver all the table stakes in terms of like a frictionless ordering experience. But hospitality must rule.
That's right. What is a word that describes how you want to lead this year?
Energy, energetic.
Good one. How about something you'd like to try in the next year?
Oh, like a food item?
Sure. Or anything.
Anything? What do I want to try? I was going to say tennis, but I don't know. I mean, I want to learn to, play tennis. My kids tried to teach me how to dive this year and it was a disaster. So I'm like, I'm just going to move on to the next thing.
All right, Alicia can help us with that too.
Okay, Alicia can help us. Yeah, I think I'm up for anything, I'll try anything. And so I couldn't possibly list one thing because all things.
All things. What about your go-to walk-on or pump-up song? What do you play before a big, maybe innovation presentation?
Okay, this is good. Macklemore.
Ooh, didn't expect that. Didn't see that coming. And your favorite cocktail or mocktail?
I'm a wine drinker, certainly, but I did have a pickled pea martini recently. And I'm not a martini drinker, and that drink was fantastic that I might be converting in the future.
Wow. What is a pickled pea? Like pea
I have-
shoots? Like
Yes,
the
yes.
pea?
Isn't that wild? It was very savory.
I would try that. I'll try that with you in the fall.
It was delicious, unexpected.
That sounds great.
Mhm.
And how do you, Mindy, stay creative day to day as you lead the
Mhm.
team to tropical bliss? Where
Tropical
do you
bliss.
find your inspiration?
Yeah. Uh, I get a good night's sleep. Truly, that is very important to me. It sounds so silly. I read every day. Reading is an important routine in my life, and I also spend a lot of time with my team. They inspire me. I think one of the pleasures of the work I get to do is I get to work with creative people all the time, and that fills my cup.
Awesome. And is there anything that you can tell us about what's coming up for Tropical Smoothie Cafe? Anything you're excited about or would like to see next? Anything else that's on your wish list?
Oh gosh, I have a long wish list. As I mentioned, we do have a new spicy wrap on our menu called the Tiki Torch. What a perfect name! It's beautiful. It has 4 levels of spice, and pair it with any smoothie to cool down your palate. And then we're getting close to the holiday season, so I'm excited about some new holiday pop-ups that we have coming. And I'm not ready to share with everybody, but I can't wait to hear what everybody thinks once it comes to our menu. And then I also think, coming to Tropical Smoothie Cafe for food, we have delicious, craveable, amazing food, and we'll continue to innovate within that category over the next couple of years, and would love everybody to get out there and try it.
Awesome. The other thing that Tropical Smoothie Cafe does so well is making smoothie the food, because your smoothie bowls are a meal in themselves.
Yes. That chia oatmeal bowl, Liz, I'm telling you, get out there and have it. It's one of our best.
Sounds amazing. So everybody go to your Tropical Smoothie Cafe, and then you'll have to come back, because the other thing I love about the innovation that you and the team are leading is solving business problems, balancing out the seasonality of a smoothie-based biz where you peak in summer, you still are evening that out with these awesome, awesome ideas.
Yes,
And
I'll come back anytime. Let's do this every Friday. I love talking to you.
every Friday. Okay. It's a deal. It's a
It's
deal.
a deal. It's a date. Let's do it.
Date. Well, Mindy, what's one thing a brand leader listening should do after listening today?
Oh, that's a good question. I go back to understand the dynamics of your team and make sure that they're working. Because if there's any innovation leader on here that's like, man, I just am not getting what I need, or we're not, breaking through, sometimes you got to go inside and be like, okay, what can we do here to make sure that everybody's being able to bring their best thinking to the table?
And what's your advice to them if you find that somebody is having some struggles? How do you address it? What do you do about it? I know it's super dependent on the person and situation.
Yeah, it's dependent. There's this children's book. What's the one, the bear that you're going on a bear walk?
Oh, yes.
You know this book? It's a children's book called Going on a Bear Walk. And in that book, the family is going to look for a bear, and they keep running into all of these challenges. And they say, we didn't go around the mountain. We didn't go under the mountain. We went through the mountain. So I think about that book, and back to your earlier question in the lightning round about what inspires me. It's like, sometimes when you're running into challenges, you just got to hit it head on and walk through it together.
Mm-hmm. Call it productive conflict sometimes.
It's really the best thing. It actually gets you to bigger, better ideas.
True. And who's an inspiring leader you know and think we should invite next to Stay Starry-Eyed?
Wow, who haven't you had yet? Who should we invite next? I mean, I've had such a pleasure of working with so many inspiring leaders. Sherry Austin, who I worked with at Marlin Connections, she is one of my favorite humans in the world and has led so many teams, but also has inspired me every day. My mentor, Doug Austin, who is also at Marlin, gosh, I wouldn't be where I am without him. And Kimberly Bean, who's now leading teams at Arby's. Do you want me to keep going? Because I could list so many people. I know you asked for one.
That's okay. No, that's perfect. Well, Mindy, it's been so much fun to be with you. Thanks again for sharing your innovation expertise. So many fun ideas to come, and we will continue to ask you to return and tell us what's new.
I love
Tropic
that.
Time continues.
Trop Time continues. Thanks for having me. So great to be with you today.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Stay Starry-Eyed podcast. I hope today's conversation sparked new ideas, strategies, and tools you can use to move your brand and business forward. If you enjoyed this episode, here's how you can help share it with your fellow brand leaders who need it most. Hit follow, share it with a friend, and please leave us 5 stars or a quick review. You know we love all the stars. You can also find show notes, resources, and additional inspiration at starryeyedstrategy.com. Until next time, stay starry-eyed.